where we dive into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
Want to do any of this for years because she was under threat or coercion of Sean Combs and highlighting messages like I'm always ready to freak off, LOL, or baby, I want to FO so bad. You know, that's going to help their narrative and, you know, saying she was the one who tried to set these up, or I believe there was a testimony she heated up the baby oil to be used in freak-offs. But there's a part of something that you said that I thought was really interesting, where it seems to me the defense was also trying to portray her as a jealous.
Buy your tickets
while they are paying bills. Hi, sippers. As you come into the Tea Talk, please go ahead and like and remember to subscribe so you can always be up to date and sipping up to date live at Tea with Tanisha.
Jealous lover, right? And go to her motivations about why she would be going after Diddy now. Talk to us about what we learned today from the cross-examination about how they tried to portray her, maybe with other interests that she had, other relationships Diddy had. How did they try to portray her as somebody who was jealous and maybe had other motives for coming after, you know, accusing Diddy now?
Well, they definitely brought up Kim Porter a couple of times today. Kim Porter is a big name because she is the mother of a few of Diddy's children, including the twins, including Christian. And so Cassie had said that she had learned that Diddy had actually left a freak off to go see Kim Porter. Again, by this time, she was still the mother of his children. She admitted to being a little bit jealous of Diddy's relationship with Kim. And she said especially this kind of happened during the holiday time because Diddy always spent the holidays with Kim Porter, with his children, something that, you know, surprisingly, Cassie kind of mentioned that Diddy and Cassie didn't spend much time together with his children. Instead, the children were always with Kim Porter. And this was something that she was a little bit jealous of, that she wanted to be around him and see she wanted to be around him, be around his family and get all parts of him. And so, she did admit that she was a little jealous. We learned about Gina today. Gina is another central figure a little bit, and I segments about Gina because Gina had previously gone on a podcast and spoken with a blogger talking about how her relationship with Diddy was, where she had alleged that Diddy was physically abusive with Gina. She had alleged that Diddy would refer to Cassie as the good one and Gina was the bad one. So for hearing from Cassie's perspective about the whole Gina situation, Gina was somebody that Gina was somebody that Diddy had seen while he was still with Cassie, somebody that was a focal point of, from her perspective, of the jealousy. And so Cassie had learned that Diddy was seeing Gina. Cassie learned about this because of social media. And she said that Diddy initially denied seeing Gina, but learned that he was still seeing her during a point where she had told him to stop seeing her. And she called Gina actually a main problem in their relationship. And so this was around the 2013 timeframe where Cassie said to Diddy, "You make me feel like a side piece. I'm happy with you no matter what," because Cassie thought she was the main girlfriend. She thought she was the only girlfriend. She didn't realize that he was seeing other people. She said that, not even surprisingly, she said that he had actually lost his temper when Diddy thought Cassie was cheating, but then when Cassie confronted Diddy about his cheating, it was like, deny, deny, deny. Another point of contention between their relationship was that, the two were on and off for an 11-year period. Cassie says that Diddy learned that she was seeing other people, and she said that it would get scary if he would find out these situations and then enter and segue into Kid Cudi. Surprisingly, they didn't talk about the car arson at all today through it, but it was essentially to kind of talk about how Diddy was just so hurt and just so devastated by the fact that Cassie was seeing Kid Cudi behind his back. The defense was trying to point out that Diddy was the one who actually introduced Cassie and Kid Cudi to one another because he was trying to get them in the studio together to pretty much kind of advance her career. And this was around the 2011 timeframe. Diddy found out about Cassie and Kid Cudi, and she had said yesterday under direct examination that he had found out while they were in a freak off. Cassie says it was actually her idea to use a burner phone because she didn't want Diddy to find out, again alluding to the fact that she was a little terrified and scared of what he could do, how he would respond. And she said that she began her relationship with Kid Cudi at a point where she and Diddy were actually off. They were on a break, but she began a relationship with Kid Cudi because the two were just enjoying each other's company. She said that she did admit that she was still doing freak offs during this off period with Diddy, but then she would kind of go and hang out with Kid Cudi.
Hey, Clean.
Okay, y'all, Carter paying some bills over there, y'all. Let's sip this tea. What I was made to understand is that Kid Cudi was a part of freak offs, that Diddy had sought out Kid Cudi. He was interested in Kid Cudi. He liked the way he was cutting up in them streets, and he summoned Kid Cudi to come around with him and Cassie and freak off. And that's how Kid Cudi became introduced into Cassie and Diddy's world, right? And then, from the freak offs between them, Kid Cudi and Cassie, Diddy started seeing that them two started having a very, intimate attraction outside of the freaking offs. He could tell by the way they were looking at each other that they were starting to catch feelings for each other, right? And so, one day Diddy was looking for Cassie and she wasn't nowhere to be found. And he found her with Kid Cudi at Kid Cudi's house. Now, that's what I came to be made to believe, the, involvement of Kid Cudi. And that's how Kid Cudi's car blew up, because Diddy was like, y'all hoes are not supposed to be frolicking without me. If y'all want to freak, y'all only ever freak with me and me knowing about y'all ass. That's how y'all get down. And if I find out otherwise, it's going to be some complications and repercussions
behind that. It's going to be some punishment. And he found out that's what they were doing. And he allegedly blew up Kid Cudi's car, had his car blowed up. Okay, let's get back into the tea. We are sipping from Law and Crime, catching up on some updates. Drop those teacups in the chat and let the tea sippers know you are here with your teacups ready to be full of some of this hot tea. Diddy's been hot all week in these trial vlogs. Girl, been hot.
One corporate client and just
keep it going.
Meanwhile, while all this is going on, she and Diddy are still on a break, and she again said that it was scary if he had found out. She was asked if Diddy knew that Cassie and Diddy were on a break, and she said that I don't know. And then that's when the cross got a little awkward because they were trying to kind of figure out a way to kind of ask these questions. And I had mentioned this during the lunch hour today, that it was just a little weird to kind of see this cross-examination around this point, because Estevao was essentially just kind of adding or concurring with Tenny Garagos, who was sitting at the defense table. I think a lot of us were kind of questioning why Estevao was the one doing the line of questioning. You know, we understand obviously that the defense was going to use a female to ask Cassie these questions under cross, but I was just kind of like, why is she conferring so much? It seemed like she didn't know what to ask next. And so that was an interesting point that I had seen while in the courtroom today. As far as just the Kid Cudi relationship goes, you know, I had mentioned this just yesterday, that when Diddy had found out, he got a bottle or a wine bottle opener, put it in between her finger, it's in between his fingers, and lunged at her. But Cassie said that he had made no contact when he had lunged at her with the bottle opener. She said her relationship with Kid Cudi the entire time was just about a month, and she got back together with Diddy. She was asked, was the relationship offensive to Diddy because of Kid Cudi's stature in the music industry? And Cassie was kind of like, well, yeah, because Diddy wasn't cheating with other celebrities. And Cassie responded, I don't really know. The Kid Cudi relationship hurt Diddy, according to the defense, because Diddy was the one who introduced them, put them in the studio together. And so the defense was saying that Diddy brought up Kid Cudi a lot after they got back together, and especially would become angry over the holidays, recalling the Kid Cudi relationship, because this was around the Christmas time frame of 2011. Cassie had mentioned by New Year's, the two being Kid Cudi and Cassie were already broken up. Diddy accused Cassie of having another relationship with another man while shooting a movie, and that movie was Honey 3, and this was in South Africa. I bring back the people and places list that was talked about during jury selection. Why? Because this was when Michael B. Jordan was named, and Diddy was apparently a little annoyed by the relationship that Cassie and Michael B. Jordan were having together while they were shooting this movie. And Cassie had even said around this time that she and Diddy weren't even together when she went off to shot the movie. She broke things off. Why? Because she had seen a picture that he was still with Gina. She was sent a video about that while Diddy and Gina were seen at Revolt Fest together, because somebody thought that that was actually Cassie. And so Cassie had sent kind of a nasty message.
Every month, this Airbnb
message to Diddy's entire staff that she thought were family, staff that she had thought had her back. But then when seeing these pictures, knowing that this was a point of contention in their relationship, she said she got upset about it because she thought the staff was her family and thought they were kind of in on this. And so those were a lot of the focus of just the other people who kind of played a role into just the tension that was displayed in the relationship between Cassie and Diddy.
And yeah, they questioned, it seemed to me, a lot of her motivations. They brought up the November 2023 lawsuit to suggest you knew this was going to ruin his career, right? Now, there was a large section of the testimony regarding drug use, and I couldn't tell if it was to suggest that, hey, Combs isn't responsible for your drug use. You know, one of the things he's charged with, right, is alleged he used drugs to make victims more compliant, drug trafficking, one of the underlying crimes of racketeering. And I'm curious how they had that whole conversation regarding drugs. Was it just to suggest, you know, she had a drug issue herself that was her own problem? Or was it also to suggest, hey, he had a drug problem and that explains a lot of his behavior, which if I understood it correctly, is interesting because I'm not sure I quite understood where they were going with that. I have an idea of where they were going with that, maybe to explain away some of his actions that they originally said were indefensible. So talk to us about what we know about all the drug use. What was the conversation about that? What was she questioned about?
Yeah, the drug use was also pretty prominent, especially during the afternoon portion. She was questioned, and I feel like the questioning along the lines, to your point, Jesse, was trying to paint her out to be kind of this drug addicted person during the time frame. They were questioning her. Did she use drugs when she was with Diddy? Did she use drugs without Diddy? Did she use drugs when she was with her friends? Oh, do you not remember these questions or these answers because you were addicted to drugs around that time period? And so there was a point where Cassie had said that there was a time that Diddy didn't want Cassie to do drugs, even though she still was, or even though that Diddy still was. The defense says Diddy didn't want you hanging out with a certain friend. The friend's name was Bonna. Bonna is also a pretty important name into the story. I'd covered her when she had filed her civil claim against Diddy. Bonna was allegedly hung outside of a balcony by Diddy when he was going through a rage period, something that Cassie had talked about.
Okay, so that's the girl, okay? Because we heard about Wale being hung out over a balcony behind, maybe looking at Cassie. Diddy thought maybe he saw Wale, the artist, look at Cassie or say something that to Cassie that he thought sounded like it was like, attractiveness there between Wale to Cassie. So it was a girl named Riley, something like that he also hung out of a window. That's crazy.
Heard direct testimony to yesterday, and the defense was trying to say, well, you and Bonna, you guys did a lot of drugs together, and Cassie at this time was saying, she was doing opioids. Meanwhile, Bonna, according to Cassie, provided these drugs like opioids. Meanwhile, Bonna did cocaine, according to Cassie. Cassie had said that Diddy was pretty explosive when he found out that Cassie was taking his drugs, and Diddy had actually contacted drug dealers not to give drugs to Cassie at this point.
So he knew Cassie was well into her addiction with him, right, to the drugs, and he would, if she wouldn't perform or behave in a certain way that he knew, she needed the drugs, he would cut her off from being able to get any drugs. So essentially she would detox in a very hard way. Wild. That is so maniacally cruel. Diddy is an evil somebody, girl. Evil.
Defense was trying to paint it out that Diddy was just worried about her health and that she was taking a lot of drugs including ketamine, GHB, MDMA, ecstasy. They talked about the Cannes Film Festival trip where Diddy had squeezed Cassie's leg so hard that a bruise appeared on her whenever she was taking pictures.
Okay, so you just hard crash her. You knew she was heavily addicted to drugs, and then you completely stop her. Like when people get off drugs, they wean themselves off drugs, right? If you're addicted to very hard drugs and addicted, like you're doing them every day, you can't live without them. You must have them. As soon as you wake up in the morning, you live to have to get high, right? Type of shit, or you won't function. You'll be sick. You'll be on your deathbed. You wean people off drugs with like Suboxone, naltrexone. You know what I mean? There are drugs that will help you wean off of drugs, essentially. It's like a drug blocker. It'll give you a little bit of the dopamine that you need, but it'll also block you from wanting to ever feel the crave and the urge to want to use drugs. It's called Suboxone, naltrexone, things like that. This is crazy. And the stuff that they take when you are addicted to is it methamphetamine or heroin? I know Suboxone is for heroin. I don't know. Y'all in the T-chat what it is, because I can't quite remember. Let me look it up. Hold on, y'all. Let me look up what the drug is that you wean yourself off of when you're weaning off of drugs. You could take Zola. Wellbutrin, Lexapro. Hold on, weaning off Hartrex. Hydro. No, that's not one. Hold on. Holiday. Suboxone. Okay, that's one of. So, like, it's called tapering, right? Tapering is a good method. It's a straightforward method. It involves gradually reducing the amount of a drug an individual takes. In many cases, the substance consumed is slowly decreased weekly until the individual can stop using completely without experiencing unmanageable withdrawal symptoms. Okay. So essentially, that is what Diddy should have done. But like I told y'all a couple lies back, Diddy's not the brightest crayon in the box. Okay. So just because you have a lot of money don't make you smart. It don't make you know what to do with it. It don't make you know how to treat people. It doesn't make you anything but a nigga that has a lot more money than most people. So it's called tapering. It involves gradually reducing the amount of a drug an individual takes. In many cases, the substance consumed is slowly decreased weekly until that individual can stop using completely without experiencing unmanageable withdrawal symptoms. Okay, so that essentially is what Diddy should have done. You would think that Diddy would have some type of, professional doctor, somebody around him that would keep his secrets, but would also still keep it 100 with him and tell him, like, you just can't take that. You just can't stop Cassie from using. She's been using for 11 years, every day, nonstop, some days, most days. You have to gradually taper her off of these drugs. But that goes back to love not being just a word, it's an action. So what Diddy was telling Cassie he loved her? Did he show it? No.
On red carpets, and he had squeezed her left so hard, according to Cassie, because she had taken drugs from him. And then there was an interesting point that was talked about in 2013, where the defense was saying that Diddy overdosed on drugs after a freak off. Diddy was hosting a party at a Playboy mansion.
They should have just let Diddy do what he did. Okay, I'm sure they probably overdosed a lot. If they were on drugs nonstop daily for years, I'm sure they overdosed a lot.
Take him into the hospital, and that's when Cassie had learned that he had overdosed. There were a lot of points just throughout her testimony today where, again, the defense was trying to ask, do you remember when this happened? And she would respond, I don't necessarily recall. And then the defense would ask, is it because you were on drugs during this period? And she was very forthcoming. I did have a problem. She did try to seek out help a couple of times, and then she just kind of went back to, again, that same kind of lifestyle. But to her point, during her direct testimony, she was saying that she used these drugs to cope with just having to do these hundreds and hundreds of freak-offs, some that would last for days at a time, some that could last for a long period of time. But I thought it was interesting, the whole drug conversation today, mainly because they even discussed withdrawing from drugs, especially because of the amount of drugs that both Cassie and both Diddy were taking, and even kind of insinuating that the reason that everything had happened at the 2016 happened at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016 was because just a few days earlier than that, Diddy was sick, and they were saying
This is the pink salt recipe that took me from 107.
Okay, we're sipping tea from Diddy, wrapping up the first week of the trial. Cass has been on the stand all week. We've had some escorts, y'all. We've had some security officers. It's been some tea to sip over here down to the Diddy trial. New York.
The defense was trying to paint it as Diddy was sick because he was going through withdrawals, and that made him agitated, that made him irritated. Meanwhile, at the same point, they were trying to say Cassie was insinuating doing these freak-offs, kind of making it seem like she was asking for what had happened to her, as far as just him being so aggressive and violent with her. Because again, we've all seen that surveillance video, but I definitely think the defense was trying to paint it as Diddy was going through withdrawals at this point, and that's why he became agitated and irritated, and that's why he had attacked her on that day. something that, it shocked everyone when we had seen that video. Still shocking seeing it inside that courtroom. They didn't show it today during the cross-examination, but
I'm sure Diddy was out of his mind, a raging monster. Probably some shit that you never want to see, okay, was Diddy. Like, I'm sure that's Diddy.
We're talking about the 2016 incident, especially towards the end of the day today.
Yeah, I don't quite buy that one, right? The idea he was going through withdrawal kind of explains what happened in 2016. Didn't you say in the opening statement that video was indefensible? Feel like they might have stretched a little bit too much there. But look, the text messages, the conversations, communications, not ideal for a prosecution case. Not the end of the case, but not ideal for a prosecution case. So it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of how much the cross-examination helped the defense. I will say, I thought it was interesting, real quick on this, Elizabeth. Didn't they say, hey, how the prosecution was insinuating Diddy had all control over every aspect of her life, including her appearance? Well, the defense, didn't they seem to suggest, no, there might have been legitimate feedback he was giving, right?
Yeah, definitely. They were trying to paint Diddy kind of talking about his stature within the industry, essentially saying that, Diddy was somebody who had a lot of reign in terms of the culture. A lot of people sought out his advice. A lot of people went to him for fashion advice. So they were trying to make it seem that, Cassie, from her perspective, was saying that Diddy controlled every single aspect and manipulated every single aspect of her entire life. Meanwhile, the defense was trying to say, look, it wasn't just you going to Diddy for fashion advice. It was other people who were interested in taking fashion advice from him because, again, of just how big his stature was at the time. They were saying that he did so much for the culture and that he, started a line like the Sean John line, and that was a very popular fashion line. And so the defense was, again, trying to make it seemed that this wasn't manipulation. He didn't control what you wore, but you would ask him, do I look good in this? What do you think of this outfit? And so, yes, to your point, Jesse, the defense was definitely trying to poke those holes into where they needed to poke them to kind of make the argument that this wasn't manipulation, this wasn't coercion, and this was something that two people just do normally in a relationship together.
So that brings us now to scheduling, right? So we are not done with the cross-examination. It's going to continue tomorrow, but Judge Arun Subramanian not happy about this, right? So two things I want to end on here. Talk to us about what the whole conversation was in court about actually scheduling Cassandra Ventura's testimony. And I believe we may have an answer as to who is going to be the next witness, who is a major witness in this case. Talk to us about it.
I definitely think so. So during the lunch hour, I was talking about how the defense was saying that they needed an entire day of more cross-examination to a point that they could carry this all the way out into Monday. This was something that the government was visibly annoyed about because they were like, we had this scheduling talks for weeks, not even just weeks, but months. And they were trying to make the argument, they being the government, that they had known all along that Cassie needed to be off the stand by the end of the week. So they didn't appreciate that the defense was trying to drag this over into Monday. And so they came up with a solution, essentially, and just that they believe that the cross-examination beginning tomorrow will take up half the day, should wrap around the lunch hour. So still a few more hours of cross-examination to go through. As far as the redirect goes, the government affirmed today that the redirect may take no more than about 30 minutes or less. And so it looks like Cassie will finally be off the stand tomorrow. If everything goes as planned. You just never know sometimes with the trial how long that these things can go. But yes, another big witness is being teed up kind of as we speak. And the government asked today, do we even need to bring in other witnesses tomorrow being Friday? And the judge was like, yes, get your other witnesses ready. And one of those big witnesses I can definitely say is going to be Don Richard, somebody who had filed civil claims against Diddy.
I thought we had heard that Don Richards was not testifying against Diddy. Didn't he pay her off? Didn't Don Richard pay? Or didn't Diddy pay Don Richard not to testify against him? Because I heard she was, the things she said that she saw, experienced, especially like during making the band, things like that. Isn't Dawn Richards a part of the Danity Kane group that Diddy put together? Okay. I saw her in an interview. I tried to upload it. It kept getting all like, glitchy, and they try to report my channel, but it's all fair use on YouTube. Anything you put on YouTube are out like that people can share, stream, is fair usage of it. I'm not just airing it, I'm reviewing it. Okay, so I got all that strike shit taken off my channel. Nonetheless, shout out to the channel that I did a review on her her conversation she had with somebody on the podcast. So not for nothing. It was, just a lot that she said she went through. However, she said she rocked with Diddy. And I believe that was after she got paid by Diddy when she did this interview. Because at first she was rearing up with a lawyer. She had a lawyer, Allbrook or Blood or somebody. Y'all know the white lady I'm talking about with the blonde hair. She's been outside. I think that was her. One of the women attorneys was going to represent Dawn Richardson in a suit against Diddy too. And then Diddy gave her some coin and she sat down and talked about some of the things that were going on. But she also said that no matter what had happened, she still had Diddy's back then at that point. That's Dawn Richardson. So now is Dawn up to testify? This is crazy.
A number of years. She had worked for not even a number of years, for decades even. Somebody that Diddy himself, when the civil suit was filed, called her a friend. And
well, I know Diddy feeling crazy. He is feeling crazy. He's like, I'm paying people to shut the fuck up. And the courts are telling them, no, I don't care what he gave you. If I subpoena you, you get in here and you testify to what we need from you in a testimony against Diddy and be a witness against Diddy.
Essentially said that he was disappointed that she had even
it's a dirty game. It's a dirty game. Okay. That's got to be a crazy feeling. Diddy's paying people to shut up. Like, I'm pretty sure he didn't think Cassie would get to this level. They're here. Okay. They are here now. And he paid Cassie a lot of millions to shut up
against him. And so the prosecution said today that she would be one of the next witnesses to be testifying against
Dawn Richardson. I know I heard through the grapevine that Diddy paid Dawn to shut up because she came out with Gloria Allred, somebody, right? One of the women attorneys, and was gonna sue Diddy. And Diddy was like, no need here. And she said, okay. She went on a couple podcast tours talking about it. And she said she was rocking with Diddy. That's the last I heard about it. So this is the first time I'm sipping some tea about Dawn coming back into the, case against Diddy to testify against Diddy.
Diddy. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how that'll all play out. And so she should be one of the next witnesses if she's not direct.
Elizabeth, I don't know if you have the answer to this. I'm not entirely sure. Is Dawn Richard one of the named alleged victims in this case? I say named. They're all using pseudonyms, except for Cassandra Ventura to be one other. Do we know if she's one of the alleged victims in this case that makes up sex trafficking or racketeering or anything like that?
I'm not necessarily sure, and that's mainly because when the prosecution was giving their opening statements, they had talked about the alleged victims, one being Cassie, one being Jane, that we presume to be alleged victim number 2, and then they were even talking about Mia, somebody who had worked for Diddy for a while, somebody that, according to the prosecution, Diddy allegedly sexually assaulted Mia while the two had worked together because she was somebody on her staff. So I'm not entirely sure if Dawn Richard is one of the victims that have been talked about, especially in the superseding indictment. But I definitely think she'll also be a very key witness in kind of piecing together her decades-long friendship that she had with Diddy, as well as just kind of how he was even just in a business aspect and a professional aspect as well, too.
And I think she was a witness to some of the allegations of Cassandra Ventura. And if I'm right about that, that goes to further corroboration. So it's not just the security guard who testified. It's not just the male performer who testified. Now you'd have Dawn Richard, who I think I'm right? I think she had testified. I think she had alleged before that she witnessed alleged abuse of Cassie at the hands of Sean Combs.
Yep. Yeah, she did. In her civil claim, she alleged that she had seen Cassie with visible injuries on herself. She had said to Cassie that, according to her civil claim, that she had just wanted Cassie to be safe, essentially. She had said that she saw one instance where she was at Diddy's home. Cassie was cooking breakfast and Diddy threw a hot frying pan at her head. And so I definitely think she will be another central figure in kind of verifying Cassie's claims, especially the physical abuse that she endured. Not so much, I believe, about, the freak-offs and that extent, but definitely as far as the physical abuse goes, I think she'll be another key witness to kind of verify Cassie's claims.
And that would make sense she didn't know about it, because what we heard today was Cassandra Ventura was not very open about these freak-offs until she ultimately filed her lawsuit. Elizabeth Milner, thank you so much, as always, giving us play-by-play details.
All right, that was play-by-play details, y'all. We are live this Friday morning with Titty Talks Tees. We're talking all Diddy all week long. Trial started Monday. We gave y'all some juror information. Jurors have been selected. There are
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready. Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay dipping.